General Hospital will reveal interesting details on Friday, March 7, 2025. First, Emma couldn't shake the growing sense of unease that had been gnawing at her for days. The more she thought about it, the more it became clear, Anna's sudden disappearance wasn't just a coincidence. She had been deeply involved in investigating Cyrus's death, determined to uncover the truth behind the circumstances surrounding it. But now, she had vanished without a trace, leaving behind only questions and mounting fears. Emma had tried reaching out to her multiple times, but each call went straight to voicemail. There were no messages, no cryptic clues, no reassurances that she was safe. Just silence. And that silence felt deafening. Her concern quickly turned into dread as hours turned into days with no sign of Anna. Emma knew Anna was more than capable of taking care of herself. She was strong, resourceful, and always had a plan. But something about this felt different. If she had willingly gone off the grid for the sake of her investigation, she would have at least left some sort of indication, a message to let those closest to her know she was okay. The fact that she hadn't only made Emma more certain that something had gone horribly wrong. Realizing she couldn't sit idly by and hope for the best, Emma decided to seek help. She first turned to Felicia and Maxie, hoping that they might have some insight into where Anna had gone or what leads she had been following before she disappeared. When she arrived, the worry on her face was evident, and before she could even get a word out, Felicia already knew something was wrong. Emma wasted no time explaining her concerns, her voice laced with urgency as she detailed Anna's investigation and the disturbing reality that no one had heard from her since. Felicia and Maxie exchanged uneasy glances. They, too, had noticed Anna's absence but had assumed she was simply deep into her work. Now, hearing Emma's fears put into words, it became clear that this wasn't just another case, it was something far more dangerous. Anna had never been one to disappear without a trace, not unless she was in serious trouble. If she had gotten too close to the truth about Cyrus's death, there was no telling what kind of threats she might have uncovered. Emma felt her stomach twist at the thought. What if Anna had walked straight into a trap? What if someone had wanted to silence her before she could expose them? The possibilities were endless, each more terrifying than the last. Determined to take action, Emma didn't waste another moment. She needed backup, someone who had the skills, the connections, and the determination to find Anna no matter what. That's when she turned to Gio. Gio had always been someone Emma could count on, and when she told him about Anna's disappearance, he didn't hesitate. He knew just how serious this was. If Anna was missing, it wasn't by choice. Someone had made her disappear. And there were only a handful of people who could track her down before it was too late. Without a second thought, Gio took matters into his own hands and went straight to Jason and Sunny. If there was anyone in Port Charles with the power and resources to uncover the truth, it was them. He wasted no time explaining the situation, laying out everything Emma had told him. The moment Jason and Sunny heard that Anna had vanished, their expressions hardened. They knew better than anyone how quickly things could spiral out of control in a city like this, especially when it involved powerful enemies. Anna wasn't just a capable agent, she was family to many of them. And if she had gone missing, that meant someone was playing a dangerous game. Jason immediately began making calls, using his contacts to gather any information about her last known whereabouts. Sunny, on the other hand, reached out to his own network, sending out the word that Anna needed to be found, fast. The urgency in the air was undeniable. Every second that passed felt like another moment closer to losing Anna forever. As the search intensified, the reality of the situation became painfully clear. This wasn't just a simple disappearance. Anna had been onto something big. And whatever it was, it had put a target on her back. Now, it was a race against time. They had to find her before it was too late. Second, Lulu had always been a firm believer that the truth, no matter how deeply buried, would eventually surface. When she discovered the confidential file Martin had been keeping, a sinking feeling settled in her stomach. The documents detailed a case from years ago, a child given away under unclear circumstances, their identity erased, their fate left unknown. The further she read, the more her pulse quickened. This wasn't just an old legal matter, it was something far more personal. The case had direct ties to people she knew, and its implications had the power to change lives. A sense of urgency pushed Lulu into action. The weight of the revelation was too great to carry alone. Dante had to know. There was no telling how deeply he was connected to this case, but if there was even the slightest chance that this lost child had anything to do with him, he deserved the truth. She found him where she expected him to be, surrounded by case files, deeply engrossed in his work. The moment she placed the file in front of him, the atmosphere shifted. The reality of the situation hit hard as he processed each detail. Every piece of information led to more questions, yet the most pressing one remained unanswered: who was the child, and where were they now? The weight of responsibility settled on him, knowing that whatever the truth was, he could no longer ignore it. Lulu knew she couldn't stop there. Another person needed to hear this, someone whose past was tangled in the painful reality of giving up a child. Brooke Lynn had spent years trying to push away the memories, trying to convince herself that what had happened was unavoidable. When Lulu arrived to tell her what she had learned, Brooke Lynn's world, which she had carefully held together, began to crack. The revelation was not just a shock, it was a flood of emotions that she had buried long ago. The knowledge that her child had been out there all along, that there was now a chance to find them, sent waves of anxiety and longing crashing over her. She had spent years imagining what might have become of the child she had been forced to give up. Had they been safe? Had they been loved? Now, the possibility of answers was within reach, but fear gripped her. As Lulu continued, a strange feeling took hold of Brooke Lynn. A deep sense of recognition stirred within her, though she couldn't yet piece together why. A name surfaced in her mind, unbidden yet undeniable. The connection she had felt, the pull towards someone who had become an unexpected presence in her life, now made perfect sense. The realization struck with a force so strong that she had to steady herself. Gio. He had been there all along, woven into the fabric of her daily life, yet she had never once considered the impossible truth. The boy she had shared conversations with, the one who had unknowingly filled the space in her heart she had tried to ignore, was the very child she had once been forced to give away. Every moment spent with him replayed in her mind, now tinged with a new meaning. The laughter they had shared, the times he had confided in her, the unspoken connection, each memory now carried a weight she hadn't noticed before. A mix of heartbreak and joy surged through her as the truth settled in. She had lost him once, and fate had given her an unexpected second chance. But uncertainty loomed. Would he ever forgive her? Would he want to know the truth? The fear of rejection twisted in her chest, yet she knew she couldn't let that stop her. The time for secrecy had passed. No matter the outcome, she would do what she should have done years ago, fight for her son, fight for the bond that had unknowingly formed between them. The realization brought both pain and hope, an understanding that though the years apart could never be erased, the future was still unwritten. And for the first time, she had the chance to reclaim the one thing she had thought she had lost forever. Third, Isaiah and Jordan made a conscious effort to set aside time for each other, carving out a rare evening of quiet intimacy amid the chaos of their professional lives. It wasn't easy for either of them to step away from their responsibilities. Isaiah's work as a dedicated physician often consumed his days and nights, while Jordan carried the immense weight of being the mayor of Port Charles, constantly navigating political challenges and community concerns. Yet, despite their demanding schedules, they both knew that nurturing their growing connection was just as important as the roles they played in the city. The evening unfolded in a setting that was both elegant and understated, a carefully chosen restaurant tucked away from the usual crowds, allowing them to enjoy each other's company without the distractions of their daily lives. The soft glow of candlelight cast a warm ambience over their table, reflecting the quiet comfort that had begun to settle between them. It wasn't just the romance of the evening that made the moment special, it was the ease with which they could be themselves in each other's presence. Isaiah, always composed and measured in his demeanor, found himself lowering his guard as he listened to Jordan talk about her latest initiatives for the city. There was an undeniable fire in her, a passion for leadership that he deeply admired. She spoke with conviction about the challenges she faced, the policies she was working to implement, and the weight of the decisions that fell on her shoulders daily. Though she was strong and confident in her role, he could see the exhaustion behind her eyes. The burden of leadership was not an easy one to bear. Jordan, in turn, was captivated by Isaiah's steady presence. There was something reassuring about him, a quiet strength that made her feel as though, for once, she didn't have to be the one holding everything together. He told her stories from his work at the hospital, the lives he had saved, the moments of triumph, and the heartbreak of cases that didn't have a happy ending. His dedication to his patients, his relentless pursuit of healing, resonated with her own sense of duty. Both of them were public servants in their own way, dedicating their lives to helping others, but tonight, they were simply two people allowing themselves to be seen beyond the weight of their obligations. As the evening continued, their conversation drifted into more personal territory. They spoke about their pasts, their aspirations, the little details of their lives that they hadn't yet shared. Laughter came easily, filling the spaces between their words. There was an undeniable chemistry between them, but beyond that, there was a sense of understanding, of two people who knew the sacrifices required of them but were still willing to take a chance on something meaningful. At some point, as they sipped their wine, Jordan caught herself watching Isaiah with a soft smile, realizing how rare it was for her to feel this kind of connection with someone. For so long, she had prioritized her career above all else, telling herself that love could wait, that relationships were secondary to the responsibilities she carried. But here, in this moment, she felt something shift. This was different. This was something she wanted to hold on to. Isaiah, too, felt the weight of the evening settling over him. He had been careful with his heart, hesitant to invest in something that might be complicated by their demanding lives. But as he looked across the table at Jordan, he realized he was already falling into something deeper than he had expected. The way she listened, the way she understood him without him having to explain, there was a rare and unspoken connection between them that he couldn't ignore. As they walked out of the restaurant, the night air was cool against their skin, but there was a warmth between them that lingered. They stood for a moment, neither of them wanting the evening to end too soon. When Isaiah reached for her hand, it was instinctive, a small but deliberate gesture that sent a rush of warmth through Jordan. She didn't pull away. Instead, she let herself savor the feeling, the quiet promise that this was only the beginning. There were still challenges ahead. Their careers would demand their attention, their responsibilities would not lessen, and the world would continue to pull them in different directions. But tonight, none of that mattered. Tonight, they had found something worth holding on to. And for the first time in a long time, they were both willing to take the risk. Finally, Ned and Lois had not planned to cross paths, but fate had a way of throwing them into each other's orbit at the most inconvenient moments. When their eyes met, there was a brief flicker of something unspoken, a mixture of nostalgia, tension, and unresolved emotions, but it quickly faded beneath the weight of their current conflicts. Their history was long and complicated, filled with love, heartbreak, and the ever-present influence of the Quartermaine family. But now, any lingering warmth between them was overshadowed by the mounting pressures that had been building between them for weeks. Lois had been carrying a heavy burden, one she had tried to keep hidden but was becoming increasingly difficult to manage. The secret about Brooke Lynn's child was beginning to unravel, and the Quartermaines had not been subtle in their criticisms. They had never been a family that handled secrets well, and Lois had found herself at the center of their scrutiny, with Tracy leading the charge in making her feel like an outsider once again. No matter how much she tried to explain her actions, she was met with disapproval and relentless questioning, as if she alone had orchestrated the deception. The stress of it all had been weighing on her, and encountering Ned at this moment only made things worse. Ned, for his part, had his own frustrations. The battle over ELQ had intensified, and Lois, once his greatest ally, was now a formidable opponent. She had always been sharp, always known how to navigate the business world, and now, she was standing in direct competition with him. It was one thing to clash with other executives, but fighting against Lois, someone who knew him so well, made every boardroom battle more personal. He couldn't separate their past from the present, and that made every disagreement sting a little more. The conversation between them quickly turned heated. Ned accused Lois of being reckless, of getting too involved in things she had no control over, while Lois fired back that he was just like the rest of his family, too blinded by business and power to see the human cost of his decisions. The tension between them escalated as they each refused to back down, old wounds reopening as their current frustrations boiled over. For Lois, the pressure from the Quartermaines, combined with the guilt she felt over Brooke Lynn's situation, was becoming unbearable. She had tried to protect her daughter, to make the best decisions she could under impossible circumstances, but it seemed like no matter what she did, she was always the one being blamed. Ned, whether he realized it or not, was only making things harder. She wanted to believe that somewhere beneath his cold business persona, the man she once loved still existed, but standing here now, all she could see was another Quartermaine willing to fight for control at any cost. For Ned, the clash with Lois was more than just about ELQ. He felt like he was losing control, not just of the company, but of the relationships in his life. His family was always in chaos, his position at ELQ was constantly being challenged, and now, the one person who had once been his closest confidant was standing against him. He didn't know how to bridge the growing divide between them, but he wasn't sure if he even wanted to try.